Hello racers, welcome back. In today's video we will go over sector qualifier in Tilburg. So first we will talk about the event itself. Later we will talk about the deck we chose, what changes we made to the deck, what cards we cut, and in the end we will talk about the sideboard we eventually landed on and for what specific matchups were those cards. So let's start with the event itself. It happened in Tilburg, Netherlands. It was 477 players. More than 50 players didn't arrive because of the weather, but the event itself was sold out before. It was one of the events that I would say that ran really smoothly. There was a lot of fixes from the previous events. There was not a lot of queues. Side events ran smoothly. At least that's what we heard. And the venue itself, even though it didn't look amazing from the outside, inside was perfectly adequate. And I really want to say thank you for OPE because this event was one of the better ones.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember the reaction of one of our friends when they saw the venue. He was like, "Oh, is this really the place?" And yeah, it was the place. But yeah, the venue inside was it was cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about the meta. So day one, Han2 was the most popular leader, even though it was spread between different versions of it. And Yoda Data Vault was the most common combination. And meta was almost exactly what we expected. So we expected a lot of Han2ECL, Yoda, Piet, and like the rest of popular decks. So like Han1, Anakin, Sabe, and even though we didn't expect a lot of hard control, we definitely knew that it will be present, especially later in the tournament, because there always are some hard control players that make it to day 2 and even higher into the tournament, even though they are not represented as a high percentage of the meta.
Yeah, I agree. Like most of the decks were pretty much what I was expecting. Like the top dogs, like the Han2, Yoda, and Piet. The deck that surprised me out a bit was Sabe. I wasn't expecting Sabe to do well in the event, and yeah, Jadimi got 11th place, and there were some others who made pretty decent result with her. So yeah, there was that. But besides that, it was pretty much what I would have expected the tournament to be.
Yeah. As for day 2, as we can see, Han2ECL made an incredible like bump in percentage. It was 19 out of 63 players that qualified for day 2. Yoda basically stayed the same. It's a really powerful deck, so it was expected. And then Piet also is a deck that can consistently make those 50+% win rate. So it also converted in a similar way. And then we had the first like surprise because Sabine, even though you can't see her as a percentage on day 1, actually converted quite well. And even made it to top 8 in the end. And then we have, of course, Sabe and Cat Bane that were the surprises for me that they made it this far. Especially that those are the matchups that we didn't really want to see. Any Tarkin Town decks are not what Han2ECL wants, but we've managed to either dodge them or beat them in Swiss. So like overall, I think the meta was not that diverse. It was, I think, one of the least diverse day 2s in Europe's tournaments because there was really low amount of like spicy decks or decks that people didn't know about because even though the Sabe is kind of new, it was like already a known player. It won a PQ before. So that was something that we actually also expected because in this meta is kind of solved and it's really hard to innovate with a new leader. The innovation needs to be done in your main or sideboard for the powerhouses that we have now.
Yeah, I would say the amount of like the spicy type of decks was reasonable. Like you cannot like expect like a lot of like spicy decks at this stage of the meta. Like we see some shifts like the Anakin and Han1 green being like falling down in popularity like late December, early January now, and like Han2 rising, and also I would say Piet to some extent. So there are shifts, and there were some spicy decks like the Obi-Wan from Twilight, the Day 2, like the Sabe. There was like Obi-Wan from Legends, Kylo. Like there were some spicy decks for sure as well. But yeah, like I don't think you can expect to have like a lot of those at late stage of the set like that, especially without bans. Like,
yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's go over our performances. So on the left we have SIPs. So you can, this is day 1 and day 2 combined, so you can go over how the event went for you before the top 8.
Yeah, so like day 1, day 2, so the Swiss, I started off by playing against Anakin's. Anakin, to be fair, like this one of the matchups where I thought at the start of the set when we were like preparing for it, it didn't feel good, and that's why we are at the start of the set also we added the Cop Vents to the deck because we wanted to have something for Anakin. But yeah, we'll get to Cobb later. But the matchup is doable definitely without Cobb, and picks like Grogu with the initiative red 5s. Like there are things that make the matchup pretty okay. So yeah, Anakin was pretty smooth because especially because Han can dominate the board on 5 resources, and then it's really hard for Anakin to retake it. So yeah, if you manage to take over the board during the 4 and 5 resources, then yeah, it's a pretty good matchup. Then I played Han Green, and Han Green player, like it was very tough game. I remember when, like in the third game, I was at like 2 HP or 3 HP or whatever that was for like 4 or 5 rounds. So it was like very close, and it was very tough to stop him from having lethal. So yeah, that was a very close game. Shoutouts to him. I'm pretty sure he also made the day 2. Then I played Hunt Blue. Nothing super special about that game. Sabe Tarkin Town, a game that you can actually watch on stream for anyone who is interested in that. Then it was another Han Green. Piet. In a game against Piet, I had one funny interaction. So one of the ways how we started to play the Piet matchup was we started to go very heavily into space. So a very common line for us was ship turn 1, turn to pilot on resources, and then like with the pilot you hop into the ship that you played on turn 1. So you have a ready ship with the pilot on it to swing for 5. And then on 4 resources to play a Luke pilot on the X-Wing that Poe created on the 3 resource round. So you have another like ready ship ready to swing. So that's a very common play line for the Piet matchup, which we found to be pretty strong. And one funny interaction I had there was on 4 resources. I played the Luke, and my opponent played Confiscate on that Luke. And usually when the opponent plays like a Confiscate or like Upgrade Hate on your Luke, you just move him to the ground. But I had very specific scenario where he played HK 1 and then Technician, and I really didn't want it to move the Luke to the ground because then he can like sacrifice, like he can attack with the Technician to kill the Luke. He would get to up to 5 resources, 4 of them being ready, so then he can flip Piet, play a capital ship like Invisible Hand or Ruthless Raider from hand for 2 less, meaning he can get like the 6 cost capital ship on that turn anyway, which would be pretty bad for me. So what I decided to do instead was I just let the Luke die, and so he went straight to the discard. It's a May trigger, so yeah, it was actually very first time when I actually intentionally killed my own Luke pilot where after getting upgrade hated on him. But yeah, I believe it was a correct choice, and I think the guy after the game said something that he didn't have the 6 cost capital ship, but I think it was objectively correct play to do. So it was a funny interaction I had against the Piet player. Then I played against Jodimi last round of the day 1. He played Sabe. Tarkin down decks are tough. Jodimi is also like a very good player, so it was very difficult to beat him. I remember after the second game, he said something around the lines that I played against like everything in his hand. I played against around his Han pilot, around his Plo Koon, Ferocity, and such. But yeah, it was not enough to beat him. So I ended up losing. That was my first loss of the tournament. Then I played on the day 2, Vader Yellow, the Yoda player. Against Yoda player, I actually lost 1. This was my second loss. And the game against Yoda, it felt a little bit bad because both the games he won were because of Generous Blade. This was actually kind of crazy because Generous Blade is not something you usually see in Yoda, and took me a little bit by surprise. The games that I lost against him were very close. Like I was basically both times 2 damage off. So if I had like a hot shot blaster, I could have finished the games. But didn't manage to find it in those games, meaning I lost to him. Then I played another Anakin, and my last round was the Han2ECL. It was actually my very first Han2ECL mirror of that tournament. I was expecting to see a few more of those, but this was my first one. And I remember those games were kind of crazy. Like game 1, he went for like I played pawn 5, and I was almost completely sure that he has nothing to deal with my pose. I just claimed the initiative without deploying my leader, and he ended up playing the Akbar, which killed my Poe and basically won him the game. So that's how he won the first game. Second game I managed to win, and the third game was the most crazy one because I remember he opened with initiative with Grogu, and I was after Mulligan, and my turn 1 plays, all of them were dying to Grogu. So I had like Luke Pilot, like Constable, I think at 5. Like those were my options for turn 1, and all of them had 2 or less HP, meaning if I play them, they'll just die instantly to Grogu when he takes the initiative. So what I decided to do is YOLO it, claim the initiative, hope for top deck of cohort, and that's what happened. I top deck the cohort. So on turn 2, I played the cohort with Han's ability, killing the Grogu. He went for Heroic Arc 170, killing the cohort. I claimed on 4 resources. I played Timely Intervention from hand with red 5. The Timely that I actually top decked together with the cohort on turn 2, clearing the Heroic Arc, and those like 2 plays in a row allowed me to come back to the game. And what was even more crazy is the fact that I actually sided out the timely for game 2, and I sided back in for the game 3. So that saved me and allowed me to get to the top 8, because if I lost that game, I would not make it.
Yeah, that's crazy. And for me, I was actually playing like meta from the start. So game 1, it was a mirror. Game 2, it was Yoda Force. Game 3 was another mirror. So it was getting to the fact that we were really lucky that we made the changes in the sideboard in the end. Then I played against Piet. That was a meta that I had a really powerful place. I think not only the Piet was the Piet player that is a really good player, was playing a little bit off curve, but I every single round was just putting a lot of pressure, and I managed to win it 2-0. Then was the Han1 green. That was extremely close. Every 3 games were ended on like 1 action, and the third game I won because I had the decision: do I want to keep Poe, Spaceship, or Wrecker? I need to resource one of those cards. I still had ECL open, and I decided to resource Poe, even though I only could have played a Wrecker with the ability, because I was on 3 HP, and if I was scared if my opponent played Millennium Falcon, I would just lose, and that's exactly what happened. We attacked with everything we had. He then slammed Millennium Falcon for my last 3 HP. I just ECL'd my ship, and it was enough for me to win. Then was my only spicy deck of the event. It was Obi-Wan 3 ECL. So I didn't really know what to expect, so I just decided to play safe lines, like powerful plays, turn 1 Grogu, turn 2 Poe Pilot, turn 3 Amidala, and it was enough to give me enough like advantage to just overwhelm him with power. Then was another Yoda. This one was Data Vault. For me, it was always one of the easier matchups, so I actually was really glad to play it. But like Yoda can always just go for "You're my only hope" into something, and it's not like the easiest matchup, but on average, it was a matchup that I really liked to play. And if I remember correctly, I lost game 1 to "You're my only hope," but then game 2 and game 3, I managed to not allow him to play it at all, and then won my my 6th game. So I was guaranteed. It was my 7th game. I was already guaranteed into day 2, and my last game of day 1 was against the same player that you played in the last round, but this time we didn't basically play a game. Every single game started with a player playing Grogu and the other one didn't having an answer. So those games were like really anticlimactic. But I was already happy because I knew I made day 2. And first game on day 2, I was really happy on the matchup I got. I got Kylo Data Vault, which I thought, well, it's one of the easiest matchups for my deck. And then game 1, I didn't see a single unit that can like not be killed by Power of the Dark Side. So no Namek, no Poe Pilot, no Amidala. And my opponent went Power of the Dark Side turn 1, Power of the Dark Side turn 2, Power of the Dark Side turn 3, and then Perfing. And I wasn't even close to finish the game. Game 2 was completely different. I went Namek, Poe Pilot, Amidala, finished the game on 5. And game 3, it was extremely long game. I lost it on 1 HP. And there was a choice in the end of the game. If I played Kelleran back, I could have went for Space Unit or a Pod. That would be untapped. The only problem was that my opponent had Snoke on board, so both of those units were really small. I decided to go for Pod to utilize all my mana, but in the end, if I went for a Space Unit, for any of the Space Units, I would have that 1 damage that I was missing in the end. So I was kind of unhappy with myself with that loss. But then my last 3 games, I managed to climb back, and I won all of them 2-0. So it was Han2 Blue, and this is it was a really hard game for my opponent because I think it's the first time against the Han2 Blue, which is not the easiest matchup for Han2ECL, that not only I don't think my base was dealt any damage in both games. In game 1, I stopped my opponent from getting the force for the entire game because I had every card he played, I had a perfect answer. Then was a Han 1 player that Sip played in round 3, and I can confirm that even though I won 2-0, those games were not easy. They were really close. And to qualify to top 8, I had to play Jadimi on stream. This is the game you can see. So when I saw the matchup, I was like devastated because I know it's a really unfavorable matchup, and Sip already lost to him 2-0. But if you watch it on stream, you will see that I basically had a god draw both games. And the second game was incredible because not only I had a god draw the whole game, when he deployed with Sabe, he attacked my hand to discard the card. I just showed him 2 wreckers, so he didn't even have a choice between what to discard, and he knew that I will just kill him first action next turn. So in the end, I've managed to also qualify to top 8 with the 10-2 record, and I was 4th in the ratings and Sip was 5th, which sadly meant that we played each other in the first round of top 8. This is all of the players that qualified to top 8. Congratulations to all of them. It was a really stacked top 8. And this is the final brackets that Sip played, because sadly for me, you can also see this game on stream. I lost to him in top 8. It was a 2-1 victory. Game 1 and game 2 were really close. Game 3, you could say I misclicked live. I attacked a wrong unit with ECL, and it basically sealed the game on turn 2. But yeah, Yeah, well, in the events that are this long, you can sometimes make a really bad mistake. It was one of the bigger mistakes I've ever made in the tournament, but it happens. I am not really sorry. Top 8 is still a really good performance.
Yeah, like it obviously feels bad to make a mistake, but to be honest, like those type of tournaments, like the sectors, regionals, galactics, like all those events are like long events. It's like they take place over like multiple days, and like stake at your peak of your performance throughout all those games. Like it's not easy thing. So yeah, that's just something that happens from time to time. But yeah, so that was kind of the game against Beton. Um, I played in the top 4 Kylo, the guy who Beton lost to, and the game wasn't really that easy. I won 2-0, but yeah, it was not super easy. One thing that Beton mentioned earlier with like you said something around the lines that you want to have a unit that doesn't die to Power of Dark Side. What it means is basically against any of this type of hard control decks, you are looking for a unit that will create another unit. So basically Namek or Poe. So if you play Namek turn 1, if they power it, you still have the spy behind, which can push actually the damage and put some pressure. Same goes for Poe Pilot. If they play like you play Poe Pilot, and instead of like putting him in the X-wing, you just leave him on the ground. So you have like 2 units, and if they remove one of them, the other one can still push some damage. Same goes kind of for Amidala to some extent as well. So that's kind of what you want to do in this type of matchup, and I was able to utilize that strategy. I remember he didn't have like the most did like the best throws also against me. I remember game 2 especially. I went for Poe ECL, or like it was Poe Timely. I don't remember. I ambushed Poe, and I remember I discarded his last card, and then he was in the top deck mode, and I think he like bricked pretty hard after the draw. It's kind of the thing that happens to these data vault decks sometimes. Like you just sometimes break like that, especially because like the difference between like the cost of like the cheapest and like the most expensive cards is quite significant. And there are a few cards like that. If you top deck in the late game, they are basically useless, like the ramp cards and some of the cheaper cards. So yeah, that helped a lot, and that was the semifinal. And then in the finals, I played against Yoda, and this final was like, to me, felt like a very textbook Yoda game. Like the decklist of the opponent was very classic Yoda, not much like spicy things in it, which is not bad. Like it's just like the classical Yoda build. And I knew a lot of the lines. Like I knew that my idea opening is Masterpiece, so that's what I went game 1. And game 2, I also was ready with going for the Masterpiece, but because I didn't have initiative, I was like, okay, I want to have like options to go both ground and space, and depending on where the opponent opens, I'll go to the other arena to do kind of this arena dodging, which is kind of the strategy that you want to utilize against any of these control decks when you are the aggressor. So that's exactly what happened. Even though I had the Masterpiece, maybe it was even not Masterpiece, maybe it was like a different ship, but I had like a ship Tier 1 and Obi-Wan. He went for the A-Wing, meaning I want to go to the ground, so I went for the Obi-Wan, and that was the play that I did. Then I went for Arc turn 2 to kill the A-Wing, and a lot of the lines were just textbook things against the Yoda. One like unusual line was me going game 1 for Masterpiece Tier 1 and turn 2 Pole Pilot and not attaching him to the Masterpiece. And I remember talking to Beton, and Beton was like after the game, no, that cannot be correct. And like there were a few reasons for me going that route, because like he had the initiative on 3 resources, and he opened with attacking with Marine, meaning that he has no blue leader, he has no way to stop the Masterpiece. So I knew that I don't need to put the Poe Pilot in the blue leader. Sorry, not in the blue leader, in the Masterpiece. He already smoked with the Marine, meaning I can put Poe on the ground and get the experience from the green unit for sure, because there is nothing he can do to kill it. And also because it's Marine, it will only trade equally with Poe. It will not trade up like Mina Bonteri or Yaddle would in that same scenario. And all those things combined made me like the idea of going for Poe on the ground more. There was technically a line of resupply into Your Only Hope into Luke, which would punish me, But to be fair, I was also considering that this a threat that could happen, but I had also like Chime in hand, and I could not stop the Your Money Hope route anyway with my hand, because on 4 resource I had to play something on the ground anyway, so that was kind of what I did. But yeah, other than that, it was very like kind of standard game against Yoda.
Yeah, and in the end, you did become a sector qualifier winner. You received your own champion box.
Yeah, exactly. Got my champion box. Like happy to have that and happy to win like a big event like that. Like I got some PQs, PQ wins before, but didn't manage to win event like that yet. Like I had like some good results with like top 8s, top 4s, and such, but didn't manage yet to win. But yeah, it has changed with Tilburg. I got the champion, so feels good, and we'll see if I can keep that first place on the leaderboard, because I'm pretty sure I am right now the first one.
Yeah, I think if they update it, you should be on first place. I will try to steal it in Paris.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna definitely like farm like PQs just to maintain it. Like I'll just go to the PQs that I have like in Poland and like some bigger tournaments like the sectors and regionals. But yeah, it would be nice if I can maintain it, but we'll see.
Yeah. And okay, so now let's talk about the deck. I can move your camera a little bit so you can see the deck lists. And here we will mostly talk about the whole deck. And the biggest change we made this season is that we went space. We shifted a lot into the space arena because new cards in Secrets of Power allowed us to finally have a safe lines going to space that are not risky, and it shifted the deck into like 50-50, which is incredibly versatile because when you need to, you can go ground and dominate that arena still, like for example versus Anakin, and if versus decks that you don't want to interact with, you can almost completely go into space and not interact with them at all. So for example, versus Piet, your best lines are always go into space, push as much damage as possible, and win that way. Because of that change, we also had to adjust a little bit. So for example, we only run one Keller on main, we only run 2 Champs, but we had to make spaces for like a key units that go up with this strategy.
Yeah, and I wanted to also like go quickly over the deck selection. So before the tournament, like we were thinking about like what are the options. I remember like at the start of the set, like at the start of like set 6, we were like, okay, we don't have like any PQs or any big tournaments, so we knew that our like very first event that will like very first like big event that we'll attend to will be the sector. No PQs before that, so we didn't like focus on like finding the deck right away, and we started doing that kind of like in late December. Obviously, like with holidays, I think Baton was also on the vacation back then, so it was a little bit busy period. But then we started like looking at the meta, kind of trying to find what is the best right now, and we started seeing like the trends like Yoda being still very popular, Han1 Green going down, Anakin going down in popularity, and we saw also like a little bit of a rise in terms of like popularity of Han2ECL, and like Han2 in general. To be fair, this one of the things that we actually were thinking about, that we're a little bit worried that the Han2ECL will be targeted. It was to some extent, but yeah, not as much as we were afraid of. And that's also why we were like thinking about like playing something else than Han2ECL. Like I know maybe it's like seems like super weird that yeah, we are known for playing Han2ECL. We got some good results in the past. Like we've been playing this leader with the base since like set 2, basically since like the deck since the leader came out. But yeah, we like to try to find something spicy. We actually were testing the things like SWU-SwoopRacers. There were some spicy decks, but yeah, nothing worked as well as the Han2ECL. So we just ended up going with that, and it turned out to be a pretty good choice.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go over cards that we cut and why. Because for some time, those in this set, those were staple. So Banter's Hunter Quarry and Cop Vanth. This is basically a package you can run. You could also like add Kari Snemic into this package because like this trio is just extremely synergizing well. But this was a package that we included into deck to for a deck before to combat Anakin. And when the deck converted more into the space and with addition of cards like Amidala, Anakin matchup became not that hard. And when we cut those cards, we also increased the like versatility of playstyle because those were basically the cards we cut to put the space cards in.
Yeah, like I feel like the biggest difference was like the Red 5. Like Red 5 was like is like a really good card into Anakin with all the trading happening on the ground, and yeah, with the shift that we did to move to more towards space, it made playing things like Quarry a little bit more awkward. Because with Quarry, you kind of want to play on the ground and play the Quarry on the ground so you can like collect it easily. But if you are in space, it's way harder to collect it. Meaning that we decided to cut it. Cop is actually very interesting because Cop is actually the reason why we started playing first Luke Pilot. So we had like we were thinking about like what are the different 2-drops that we can play, and we had this one version where we had Cop and Luke, and the trick with Luke is that you can when Cop dies, you can like search for Luke Pilot and then play him with the piloting for free. So you basically kind of get a free drop for free, which is great combo. And the combo was nice, but yeah, then we ended up cutting the Cop because like the other 2-drops were a little bit weaker. Like obviously Namek is great, but the others were not so good. It was like very taxing on the space in the deck, so we decided to cut that. We also cut back then Luke, and then but because we saw that Luke is actually functioning even without the Cop ability. We came back to it a little bit later before the tournament, but yeah, it's kind of funny that like Cop is the reason why we started playing the Luke Pilot in the deck. So there is that one part. The other 2 cards that we had for quite a long time are Sandari Peacekeeper and Chopper. First we have Sandari, and Sandari was mostly to combat like the space aggro decks and just for racing matchups. But as it turned out with testing, the Sandari were not necessary with how we shifted our deck. Since we shifted it more towards Space Arena, the Sandari was not as necessary because we could like combat the space aggro decks in their arena anyway, so we didn't need the Sandari as much for racing. Things like Boba were not super prevalent in the meta. Like I think like most of the Boba players like right now switch to Piet, and Sandari works against Piet, but yeah, we found the space aggro route to be more efficient against Piet, so that's why we ended up cutting the Sandari. And Chopper was one of the like very cute additions. I remember Erendine being like a huge fan of Chopper, and it was a huge meme on our Patreon. I cannot count how many memes we had with Chopper, but he was really awesome against Han1 Green specifically, and we were sending him in against other matchups, but with testing, it just turned out that we are beating Han1 Green anyway, so Chopper was just not necessary, even though it was heavily swinging that matchup in our favor. The matchup was already good enough to the point where we didn't feel like we need even more things against him, so that's why Chopper was cut. Obviously, there were like more things that we cut from the deck. There were like so many other things that we tested, but yeah, those are like the 4 main ones that we feel like are very interesting to talk about.
Yes. Also with like one last thing with Cobb and Sandari, those are units that trade really well, trade up. And this version of the deck rarely does it at all because you are so aggressive that you just want to go base. And
yes, it's also like it's more aggressive. Yeah, that I agree with.
yeah, and cards that we kept. So we went into a lot of trouble into like building a space side of the deck, but we still kept the force package with General's Blade just because it's something that your opponent will always need to be worried about. Because if you go Gungi or Obi-Wan and Blade turn 2, and if it goes unanswered, you will win the game. It's not many decks can handle it. So having that option was always really good. And both of those cards actually synergize with other cards in the deck, even without the combo. So Obi-Wan is one of the better pickups from Kelleran. Gungi can be played for 1 mana, which is really good into control decks because you can like sacrifice him to the power of the dark side and then play your other 2-drop. And Blade, to be honest now, I mostly play it on my leader into the matchups that I know that it's really hard for my opponent to remove it, to have a really like high statted unit that I know dodges a lot of removal. I can consistently put damage into my opponent.
Yeah, like one thing I wanted to add about like this like Jedi package in the deck, like on paper, like it was like a very long like all of those units were like big staples of the deck. Like for a long time, we had like 3 copies of them and 3 copies of Blade as well. But the the play line of Jedi into Blade on turn 2, it is so telegraphed, and with right now upgrade hate being played in the main deck, it is just so obvious that the risk of that play of that line is just really big, and like almost everyone is prepared for it because Han2ECL is kind of like a play deck, so everyone kind of knows that this is a thing. So we didn't want to rely on that play line as much as possible. And sure, we have like pilots which are upgrades, but like the pilots that we chose to play are not getting heavily punished by the upgrade hate, because like if they if they play the upgrade removal on the Luke, you'll get him on the ground. If they play it on the Poe pilot, it's fine because you still have the X-Wing. So yeah, the upgrade head is not as big of a blowout on them, and that's why we decided to cut some of the Jedi's. But we still have like that threat potentially that we can go like Jedi plus Blade, or yeah, have the Generous Blade for the leader. Okay, and next we have the ship package. Do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I can. We mentioned a lot. We already mentioned a lot of reasons why we play it, but I think this is like the trio that made like convinced me that this is the time that it's a good line to play. Because I think Red 5, if you don't really have the ability to activate the on attack, can be like underwhelming. But Heroic Arc is like a perfect card to combine it with, because it not only goes, if you play Red 5 on turn 1, you can play Heroic on turn 2 and kill a 4 HP unit, so most 2-drops will die to it. Red 5 also is a really good unit to put pilots on, because if you put Poe pilot on it, it is 5 HP if you play it on turn 1, which dodges a lot of important removal on turn 2, because you not only don't die to power of the dark side, because Poe created the X-Wing, you also dodge open fire, which is a really big deal versus decks like Piet. And
Eager Escort.
Yeah, and Eager Escort. And Luke Pilot is just a unit that is not, it's a really big upgrade that pushes a lot of damage and is not really punished by upgrade hate. So this is one of the key factors why it's good. One of the playlines that it's kind of funny with him, if you played Masterpiece on turn 1, you played Luke on turn 2. If then they remove your Luke instantly, you have a green unit for Masterpiece, so you basically get that one experience back, and you can put it on Luke, so he doesn't trade down with your opponent 2-drop. So Masterpiece into Luke is just a really clean line, especially, for example, versus Yoda. And during the tournament, there was also one line with Luke that I really liked, because he's also Force, so he reactivates Obi-Wan, and versus Jadimi on the stream, on like the important game to go into top 8, he captured my Obi-Wan to push me a lot of damage on the ground, knowing that I will instantly kill it with stolen 80 holder that I stole her from him. But Obi-Wan would then lose that Sentinel that he had. So I killed the spaceship. He Tarkin down my stolen 80 holder, and I just played Luke for 2 mana into the ground to reactivate the the Obi-Wan Sentinel, which basically sealed the game because it prevented like 8 damage into my base. So even though it's a really rare synergy, it's still something you can do to sometimes just sneak up on your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Like one thing I wanted to also add about the Luke was the fact that it has the nice synergy with Obi-Wan, and Luke is one of those units that might seem a little bit weaker with like the new sets, because like there are 2/4 minions that are like more prevalent in the meta, and Luke being a 3/2 doesn't trade that well with those. However, Han2ECL right now has access to like the pink kind of abilities. Like it has the red 5, it has the masterpiece, it has the arc 170. Like surprisingly, Han2 has like a lot of ways to finish off like low HP units. Meaning the fact that even though the opponent can trade into the Luke or unit like that, it's still completely okay. One thing that I wish when I saw the Luke, I was like, please tell me that he's a Jedi, so I have like an option to play Generous Blade. But unfortunately, this version of Luke is not a Jedi. Like if it was like an hour later in the movie, he probably was a Jedi. I don't even remember like what is like canon like Jedi thing. But yeah, it is, this version of Luke is not a Jedi, meaning the Generous Blade doesn't have the synergy with him. However, it's still a strong, solid play. It has synergy with things like Obi-Wan. But yeah, Luke is solid. And I want to also like quickly talk about the Red 5, because Red 5 is one of those cards that we didn't like for a long period of time, but again, the addition of Arc allowed us to have enough pink abilities in the deck to the point where the non-attack ability is quite consistent. It also like works pretty well against decks like Anakin, and just there are just a lot of units, generally speaking, like high stated units like Typhos, like the Obi-Wans out of like Sentinels that have high health, and having the Red 5 to get through those is a quite strong type of effect to have available.
Yeah, it's also an incredible combination with Grogu. So that's additional line. But before it wasn't enough, and now we have like the whole package is just incredibly powerful. And next we have a 1 of Crucible and a 3 of Amidala, and this card is mostly for this specific interaction. If you go Amidala on 4 resources, you flip your leader on 5 and you play Crucible, the amount of power you get from that one play can just completely swing center the games. And in addition of that, Crucible was really good into decks that have removal that is really specific. So for example, Takedown or Snow that needs to kill everything that has 2 or less HP. And in certain situations, that one experience on your leader to put him out of Luke removal or putting Amidala out of Anakin was enough to just completely swing the game. And this is the reason that even though it is often not like incredible, in the situation that you play it, it seals the game. So it's one of the cards that I really like as a one-off. It will not always be played, but when you do, it swings the game so heavily that it's worth that one slot in your deck.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's actually incredible, like how many thresholds the one experience changes. Like you better mentioned the Luke -6/-6 all of a sudden not killing the Luke, like the experience tokens on spies and like 2 HP units being like outside of like the Snow range, like putting experience tokens on the 3 HP units, so like they are outside of like Bo-Katan range. Like there are so many of those type of effects where the one experience actually matters. Okay, and now we have like the part of sideboard. So some of the additions that we've made to counter some specific decks, and first one are the additions to beat Piet. So first one is Green Squadron A-Wing. So this one seems like super like unusual, just because like A-Wing is such a like default card. It seems like something that you would never play in the sideboard, just because like with with sideboard you're mostly looking for like something more expensive, something more explosive. But actually the things that Green Squadron A-Wing provides are exactly what you need against Piet, and he synergizes very well with like that space kind of strategy against Piet, because what you can do is you can utilize it in two ways. First one is play A-Wing turn 1, and then turn 2, if you play any pilot on the A-Wing, both Luke or Poe pilot, you'll have 5 or more HP on the unit, meaning it's outside of the open fire or Eager Escort ambush range. So you have that guaranteed option to swing with it, and that's not exactly the case with older spaceship. If you play at like red 5 turn 1 with Hans ability, it will have 2 HP, so then you can play Poe pilot, which will have 5 HP. But if you play a Luke pilot on it, it will have only 4, so it can die to open fire or the Eager Escort ambush. And yeah, like with A-Wing, you can play any pilot on it and be outside of those removal ranges, and it pushes still the free damage, which is exactly what you need. Another really good use case for A-Wing into Piet is playing it on the 4 resources. So you can play it, you can go like Luke pilot on one of the ships, and then A-Wing with Hans ability, or you can like play a free drop, like any other free drop, and A-Wing with Hans ability. The fact that it has free HP still makes it an option that can be played with Hans ability. And the biggest downside of Green Squadron A-Wing, which was like always the case, is the fact that he only has 1 damage when he's attacked. But against Piet, this is virtually irrelevant. Um, I guess he can like attack with his capital ships into him, but that's very rarely the case, and you are not killing the capital ships anyway for the most part. So the amount of damage that you deal back to them is not that relevant, and there are no like small ambushers which can attack into Green Squadron A-Wing and survive. Like there are no bleeders in the PL deck. There are no things like Millennium Falcon. So there is no like ECL threat or whatever that can punish the Green Squadron A-Wing in other decks like Sabine. So the A-Wing was a great addition, even though it's like something that doesn't seem that impactful at the first glance. And the other one is Darksaber. This one is actually an addition that we added super late alongside another card, which we'll talk about in a minute. And Darksaber is like a very interesting case because, yeah, we're sitting both with Beton and 2 of our friends who we arrived to Tilburg, and we were sitting at the bar cafe, and we're like looking at the cards. We took both me and Beto like a bulk of cards with cards that we could consider playing, and like we're like going through some of the options because we still haven't had the whole sideboard figured out. And when we're like going through the cards, we're like, what about playing Darksaber, because it's a unique card, and Piet has trouble removing the unique upgrades like DRK. The fact that DRK can kill Generous Blade makes Generous Blade kind of risky, especially because the DRK can be found with the invisible hand, and Darksaber cannot be killed by the DRK. It still can be destroyed by Confiscate, which is ultimate annoying. However, Confiscate is very difficult for Piet to play on curve, because if he plays that on, like, you can just delay actions with the Darksaber. You can like flip your leader because you want to play it mostly on the hand flip turn, and then like do other things instead and make the Piet spend the mana first and then slam the Darksaber, or just play something else. And if the opponent is tapped out, if there is like no threat of the Confiscate, just play the Darksaber on him. Play Hotshot Blaster from hand, because Darksaber plus Hotshot will cost 5, which is exactly the amount of mana you have available on the 5 resources. So you can go for that, swing 9 to base, claim the initiative, swing for 9 more, and that's basically more than half of the PS HP gone. And I remember reading that Higo from our Patreon actually did exactly this line against one of the Piets during the Tilburg sector. So yeah, good that it worked out for him. I actually never ended up playing Darksaber. I said it against many decks, but I just never had the opening to play it. I think Beton ended up playing it like once or twice, but yeah. It's kind of funny that like the whole text of Darksaber is completely irrelevant. Like we have no Bandalorians whatsoever in the deck, so it's just a 4 mana +4/+3, and the one aspect that matters the most is the fact that it's a unique upgrade, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I actually played it once during the tournament versus Piet, but a little bit differently. Piet was on 11 HP, and I slammed it. I attacked with Wrecker into his base to put him on 11. He then played his big ship, and I slammed Darksaber into Wrecker to put him on 11 damage, so he had to claim, even though he had like 15 damage on board, but he wasn't killing me. So it basically allowed me to have a free turn, and it closed the game for me. So also the additional good thing versus in A-Wing is that it's really good into hard control or really control decks, because of the fact that you can play him for 1 mana. On second turn, you can always, or second or third, you can always add another card to him to dodge Power of the Dark Side. So it's not, he's mostly versus Piet, but he can be utilized into other matchups as well. And next we have like the really stable cards for third Cham. It's versus every resupply or ramp deck. It just, especially in Han2ECL, being a free drop allows you to really heavily punish ramping on the turn that you really want to ramp, so on 3 resources. And it's also an amazing card versus Han1, because he can't even use his ability past turn 1 without the threat of you ramping with him. And Gorilla Attack Pod is just 5 mana for 6 damage that you can, if you use your actions, if you have more actions in a turn than your opponent, which is not really hard when you have cards like Amidala or Namek that puts a lot of like residual actions to do. It's just a really, really clean finisher, especially versus decks that really want to race you. So actually, it's also a really good card versus Piet, because you often, if you went into Space Arena to push a lot of damage, then they will need to interact with you early on their 5 resources, and then you will be able to like flip your reader, go base, play attack pod, go base, and you will leave him on the amount of HP that you often can just finish a game with ECL Wrecker. So having another pod inside is just a way for us to have more consistent like threat of pushing damage from hand.
Yeah, exactly. Like Pot is a really good card whenever you have like any matchup where you just need to race with the opponent. And this is like one thing that you might have noticed with our deck, that we have some cards that we have like one-offs in the main deck and then the other card in the sideboard, and it's just like knowing which matchup the one-off is like, in which matchup this card specifically is good, keeping it for that matchup and trying to prioritize playing it. And then if you have a matchup where this card's not good, you just don't play it. And then for the second game, you can just side in the extra copy, side it out, depending on like whether it's good or not. And Guerrilla Attack Pod is one of those cards that has some matchups where it's really good, especially like the ones that you are racing, so Piet. And one thing for Cham is that even though like the line of Cham turn 2 countering the resupply or technician is very obvious right now, it's still a line that a lot of like these green decks have to take, just because they don't have like other options. Like sure, they can try to not play the resupply or not play the ramp, but having the threat of Cham, it's just a really good thing to do. And then sometimes they have to risk it, and if you have Cham, it's a big blowout for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. Next we have the Clone and Claran. So Clone is another like kind of late addition to the deck. We added it for a couple of reasons. So the reasons why we added it is because a lot of like right now units are non-vehicles, and like the biggest problem with Clone in the past was that a lot of like the top end units were just vehicles, so like mostly like the blue-green villainy capital ships like Avengers, Devastators, all of those were vehicles, meaning you cannot clone them. But right now, the top end of many decks are units that are non-vehicle, meaning you can clone them. Things like Bo-Katan, Lukes, like um, the Snokes as well, Anakins. Like there are just Kalerans, Mace Windu against the Anakin. In Han1 Green case, like it's Han unit, Enfys, like there are just so many units that can be cloned right now that this card functions well. You can play this card with Han's ability. It will still take damage, but you have a lot of flexibility. So yeah, this card works well in the current meta, and mostly it was mostly meant to counter like the blue heroic type of decks, but it can be sided in against many slower decks, the slower matchups, as long as you have an idea what you want to clone. Like you don't necessarily want to clone your own things. Like it's mostly about knowing is there like something worth cloning in the opponent's deck. Like you can clone your own Keleran, but yeah, at that point you might as well just play another copy of Keleran if that's your goal. But yeah, sometimes you can also clone yourself and like clone a Wrecker or something like that to get some sort of like benefit. And we have also Keleran as our like second copy of the sideboard. Just another copy to have it for like the slower matchups. There are matchups where Keleran's good, and that's what he is for in the sideboard. Actually, fun fact is that I think during the tournament I played General's Blade more often on Keleran than I did on the other units, because I think I did that like once or twice, which is kind of funny. But yeah, he's also a Jedi that can carry the General's Blade.
Yeah. One more addition with clone. I think the biggest reason why we added it is to have a better counters for Han2 blue, because line when he goes Luke on 6 resources was really hard for us to came back from, and if they play Luke with damage, you can clone it and instantly kill it, and basically the game is then flipped completely, and it's really hard for them to go over. But it's also, like as Sip said, can counter like a Han 1. It's actually a really good use case, because the Han 1 from set 1 that ambush a 6/6, it's a perfect counter which our deck sometimes struggle with. And Kelleran is just the card is insanely overpowered if you manage to play it. Even though our deck is like an aggro deck, there are certain matchups where you go to these late resources and then having access for a 6 mana, putting 10 plus stats onto the board is just something that you can't really pass off.
Yeah. And one more
yeah
thing before we get to the cohort is about clone is that what I wanted to say is like against the Luke line. So you said that like Luke on 6 resources is like a difficult line to deal with. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily Luke on 6. Actually, against Luke on 6, you can easily Wrecker and kill with the one played. Like I would say like the more difficult line was Luke on 7, played by Yoda or Han2 mostly, and having the option to clone that, do the -6/-6 on the Luke, and then finishing it off for free. That was like like in my eyes at least, like the most important use case for clone. Like the play kill on 6 was obviously also great, but yeah, Wrecker was another way to deal with him 6.
Yeah, that's also true. And then I think the biggest change we made to the deck, and I think one of the reasons that, as for me, I played a lot of mirrors in the event. I think, and this was the biggest like playmaker in those decks. This card was added to the deck a day before the tournament in the same cafe that we added Darksabers, because we still thought about how to counter our own deck, because we expected it to be quite prevalent in the tournament, and there was a lot of ideas we tested before, and Cohort was one of them. But it's a card that is really good versus one specific interaction. So it kills Grogu if your opponent played it with your ability and survives. And this is the only card that gives you really big advantage if your opponent played Grogu. So we decided to spend 3 spaces in our sideboard just for this one matchup. And in addition to Grogu, there is also one other card that it counters, but it's not as important, but it also kills Gong Droid. And versus Piet and Yoda, it's also a line that it's kind of annoying for us if they go like for Gong into Typho for Yoda or Gong into MC30 for Piet. So having something to just break that line for them and still push a lot of damage was additional reason why we decided to go for Cohort. But as you can see above Sips, Grogu Killer is the main reason why we added Cohort.
Yeah, like the Grogu for sure. There are like Meta mentioned, there are like some other like smaller use cases like the Gong. With Gong, you kind of need to have the initiative. So like that's something I would also emphasize that if you don't have initiative, I don't think it's that great of an answer to Gong because they will all like get the swing. Meaning that they get to swing with the Gong and they can play the MC30 or the Typho anyway. But if you have the initiative, yeah, I think it's a good answer to Gong. And there are some other smaller interactions like you can play to kill Pershing, like not kill, but deal 4 damage to him on turn 2. And Pershing also deals 1 damage to himself. So like it's very clean answer to Pershing as well. So there are a few use cases here and there where Cohort is really good, but yeah, by far the biggest one is killing Grogu with it.
Yeah. So this is the end. Thanks everybody for listening to us, and again, extreme thank you for all of our Patreons. In like the deck we played was available a day before. It was constantly updated for us. Every change we made, every change we felt that was really good. The Han2ECL was updating. It was a constant change, a constant talk with the community. A lot of our Patreons brought it to the tournament and made a really good performances with it. So I think the whole idea of like building it with the community actually worked really well, and I'm extremely happy of how the event turned out in the end.
Yeah, and if you are interested in like maybe some further like innovations on the Han2ECL, some newer versions, feel free to check our Patreon. We are gonna probably do maybe potentially some updates to Han2ECL. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And yeah, that's probably it from us for today. So thanks everyone for watching, and see you next time. Bye.
See ya.